Welcome back to another top-down analysis on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and altcoins. So looking at the monthly charts on Bitcoin, is it over? Well, if the monthly had to close here, certainly is. And I'd be looking for at least 75K, potentially even lower. But, we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. So for the time being, until such time that we close the monthly chart, this is just speculation on how the monthly candle will close. But here's the thing, I mentioned, this monthly fair value gap is where I was looking for price to respect. Now, I did mention that we could trade lower to the weekly levels and then bounce. And my invalidation is as a monthly closure below the midpoint of this fair value gap. So at this point in time, we'll have to wait until the monthly closes, but let's see what the weekly has to say. And it's not looking good. And the reason being is that we had a bounce at the 0.5 of this fair value gap. I was feeling pretty hopeful. I opened up along with the community on the 1 hour confirmation, which obviously subsequently got stopped out. And I was feeling pretty good before a bounce at that point. Around 0.5 of this weekly fair value gap, we could then get that bounce, trade up to these levels, reclaim 100K, and we could then most probably close the monthly above that validation point of mine. But that's not happening, right? I mean, at this point in time, we are just 1 a.m. Eastern time, and we are disrespecting this entire fair value gap. We've got this order block here, and I think at this point it's far more likely that we bounce and roll over. And the thing is, with everybody looking at the same charts, I've got absolutely no doubt that people are probably starting to panic sell, and you could get the potential, acceleration, because the reality is when you look at this on the monthly, you've swept the quarterly high, you've then closed beneath all of those levels, so you've had your accumulation right here, you've been manipulated and closed below the highs, and so this is just the distribution candle in the power of 3. Accumulation, manipulation, distribution. And so the fourth candle, if we don't take out sell-side liquidity in the monthly, the fourth candle will probably continue this distribution to these lower levels. And so yeah, it's not looking good on the monthly. The weekly, it's not looking good either. We would have to have some crazy bounce, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to get up to those levels. So I'm still waiting for that. So I still need, the weekly and then the monthly closure to confirm it. But at this point, looking at the fact that we had swept these highs, we look at the standard deviation, and I was form fitting a bit, right? So I was looking at one standard deviation because it lined up with those weekly levels. I was optimistically bullish, but I've got to be realistic now, and just using the standard deviation after the previous quarterly high sweep takes us down to 73,000. So will that happen immediately? Well, we've been distributing now for a while, so I expect us to get a new phase of price, to consolidate here, to retrace. If we had to reverse from here, it would be probably one of the most craziest stunts in Bitcoin's history. And then again, that it is Bitcoin, right? But it's a macro asset more than ever, and there's obviously a lot of headwinds in the macroeconomic environment. So yeah, we'll have to wait to see how the monthly and weekly closes. As for Ethereum, we are respecting the 0.5 of this weekly gap. This still has some hope. But the reality is, when you look at the standard deviation, this market maker model is complete. Yes, I have higher targets with the CME futures gap, but when you've expanded and then met with more expansion, that's just classic of a reversal. And so this is looking more likely to bounce and then continue lower. That said, there is a lot more, this does have a chance to bounce at this level. And looking from a monthly perspective, it's starting to disrespect this level as well. So, there is time for the week. I mean, again, we could get something crazy that happens News-wise, the conditions are becoming very liquid. And again, I need to have a close above 3.1 to remain bullish. If not, then I'll start looking for lower targets. So yeah, this is kind of the last support for me, is this weekly fair value gap. We need to close above the 0.5 to remain bullish. So don't get me wrong, there's plenty of opportunity for longs, but I think these levels will take a lot longer to reach as I originally had planned, right? So I was looking for a drop down to this level, and we've taken out that liquidation events, the sell side liquidity, and we get bounced and we could go and take out these highs, right? So I'm still high time frame bullish on Ethereum, because with all these highs left behind, we're going to come for those later on. Don't get me wrong, I'm still bullish on a much larger time frame. I just think my time horizon has to be extended now because of the price action, the way it's playing out. So that's just my initial thoughts on Bitcoin and Ethereum going into Friday, how it closes on Sunday, and then later on next week for the monthly close. Well, we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. But for the time being, it's not looking good, bro. Let's see how things play out with the weekly and the monthly close. That said, though, I just want to make a quick little mention on things like Link. Right, we were initially getting a bounce at that 0.5 of that weekly wick. And yeah, they aren't selling off as badly as Bitcoin is, but I mean they've already been hammered. And again with the Link, I'm bullish. The fundamentals are bullish. And when you look at the charts, we had all these swing failures. There's plenty of buy side liquidity. There's so much reason to go up. So yeah, I'm in my spot positions in Ethereum and Link. The rest of it's cash. I've got a small speculative play that's just being absolutely destroyed. But just purely from the charts, I'm very bullish on Ethereum and Link when the time does come. When it comes, I'm not sure. We'll have to see. I think Bitcoin needs to find a bottom. I think also have reached their bottom, if not going to very soon, sooner than Bitcoin. Bitcoin will find its bottom, then you'll probably find that indices find the bottom, and then we can look to resume upward price action. When that happens, I'm not sure. We're going to have to wait and see. This is a very interesting time. And I think we need to recover now for however long that takes. So yeah, longs are on the table. Don't get me wrong. There's no time to be shorting. If you were going to short this market, it had to be around here. Obviously, with Bitcoin, I sold at 120, and I'm in a heavy cash position for that. And so there's nothing to do really but to wait. And yeah, so it makes sense that the alts are finding the bottom before Bitcoin does, and Bitcoin does before indices. So let's see what happens. I'll catch up over the weekend, probably going into the weekly close, or probably Monday morning for a weekly update, and we can get stuck into it from there. See you in the next one. Cheers.